What's up, everybody? Hope you are doing well on this Monday.
Give me some of those dry Cheerios.
I know, right? All right, so Gunnar, this appeared to be when the game started yesterday. After the first two series, I'm thinking this game might get in the 40s for both teams. It looked like it had shootout written all over it after both teams just went down the field.
Yeah, man.
And Cooper Kupp is dominating. You're saying to yourself, "Oh boy, here we go." Things kind of settled down in the second quarter. Yes, LA got the Puka Nacua touchdown where he beat Bradbury. But really after that, Derek, they slammed the door shut. The Eagles shut him out in the second half completely. And I'll tell you, I really like the adjustment they made to Kupp. So the first series on Cooper Kupp, 5 catches, 56 yards. Rest of the game, 3 catches, 62 yards. And now I'm not saying he didn't do anything the rest of the way, but that's a major switch. And I'll tell you what, Bradley Roby got thrown into the mix right away here, Gunner, in that slot, because what they were doing early wasn't Goodrich. You know, he's a kid, and you're asking him to go against one of the more savvy guys out there in the game. It's a tough ask for him.
Well, you know, it's funny because on a pregame show, I got a text from somebody that said, how much will Roby play in this game? And the response I got back was, he will play, but he's not in shape. And when you think about it, he's been sitting at home all this time. The Eagles add him on Friday, basically. And he's basically got to get himself in game shape. But that just tells you, number one, how concerned this Eagles defense was, the coaching staff, about the pass coverage in general. And number two, he was much needed. I love the way he didn't play first half, but all of a sudden he's playing and he's following Cooper Kupp the second half and basically shut him down. Basically shut him down. That first half, one time they had Goodrich on Kupp. Next time they had Eli Ricks on Kupp. Next time you saw, they tried everybody they could think of on Cooper Kupp. But Cooper Kupp is one of the best technicians in the game. Yeah. And you can see that Puka Nacua has learned his lesson well from Cooper Kupp, because Puka is also a very good route runner for a rookie. For a 22-year-old fifth-round pick out of BYU, he has already established himself as an excellent route runner, and he's got sure hands. Cooper Kupp is as difficult as anybody as there is to cover in the National Football League. You know, he may not be the fastest, but my goodness, you talk about shifty, sure-handed, and my goodness. So when the Eagles made that adjustment on him in the second half and took him out of the game, it changed the entire complexion of the Rams passing game.
I'm with you. I thought it was really impressive. This was really a day where I thought Sean Desai shined. You know, and we talked about the offense in the last segment, but I want to give him a lot of props too, because it looked like a day where the defense was really going to get beat up here, and they didn't. And a lot of it had to do with, I think, some of the things they did at halftime, because we're always screaming for adjustments to be made. And it felt like they made, really good adjustments. So a couple things. One, as they have done most of the year, they just completely took the running game away from the Rams. 54 yards on the ground, just an average of 3.9. But the other thing, they held them to a season low 195 passing yards, Derek. So it wasn't just taking Kupp away. Nacua, I mean, those guys got a few here and there. Atwell got a few here and there, but all in all, you know, they didn't. There was really, I didn't feel threatened. They didn't feel like it was a big threat in the second half from the Rams.
No, once they came out and stumbled in that first series, I felt the Eagles had them right where they wanted them. And as they continue to build that lead and force them to pass more, they start getting much better pressure on Matthew Stafford. And because he's dealing with that hip, first of all, Matthew's not a great scrambler to begin with. And we don't know how bad that hip was. He performed well in the first half with it. Why? Because he had time in the pocket. He sat in that pocket and picked them apart. He didn't have to move much in that first half. Once they started getting consistent pressure on him second half, it messed up that inner mechanism of timing routes with his receivers. First of all, his receivers weren't getting open like they were before. And secondly, he had nowhere to go. The only place he could go is to throw the ball out of bounds. Once he gets out of the pocket and you got that speed on that Eagles defense chasing him, it speeds up your clock in terms of what you want to do with the ball. And it totally disrupted the entire Rams offensive flow at that point.
I agree. That's a great point. So you look at the pass rush. Hassan Reddick, the other thing about Reddick is you feel like there's a couple times early where he's getting close, but it's only a matter of time before the dam burst. Like he's going to get home. And end of the game, he ends up getting 2. He was in on another one as well. He's now got 3 in his last 2 games. Derek, this is a very similar pattern that he followed last year. Started slow, came on, and rode that wave all the way into the postseason. And you feel like he's getting back to being himself. Not coincidental. Last 2 weeks, he's been playing without the cast. It's taped up, but there's a big difference for him in terms of the ability to use that hand than he had early in the season.
Well, you look at 2 consecutive plays, he gets a sack, and you get a chance, go back and look at how he blows by the tackle on that second sack. I mean, he just blew by the tackle before the tackle could even get in his stance. And look at how he's using his hands now to get the leverage that he needs to attack quarterbacks. He's got 3 sacks now in the last 2 games. That's the Hassan Reddick we're expecting to see. If he can stay healthy, he's going to get double-digit sacks again. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Now, there's games, against the likes of Mahomes, difficult to bring down. Brock Purdy, difficult to get on the carpet. The way the 49ers run that offense. Tua, difficult to get on the carpet. His sack totals, his individual totals may suffer in those games. But for the most part, we know how Dak Prescott loves to hold the football. They got 2 shots at Dak. Man. They still have 2 shots at the Giants coming up. No telling who's quarterbacking for the Giants at that point.
Yeah.
That offensive line is a mess. We'll talk more about the Giants later. But so he's going to have more than his share of opportunities to get back to double-digit sacks. I think if he stays healthy, even though the schedule is going to be a lot tougher, he's going to have great opportunities to make it 4 consecutive seasons of double-digit sacks.
Agreed. Our girl Fitness Rebel is now on. So,
all right. Oh yeah. Oh,
there we go.
Well, I'm not saying anything. I'm leaving it alone. It's Monday. I'm in a good mood. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna leave it alone. Tina made reference. Hey, D Gun's gonna get on you. Not today, Tina. I'm just gonna let it go. But but Fitness Rebel, you're the jar, $5. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm gonna tell you.
You couldn't help yourself. I know it. All right. So
D Gun, baby, I can't do it, right?
Listen, I hear you, man. All right. So the Rams only had the ball, Derek, for 9 minutes, 43 seconds in the entire second half.
Yep.
Less than 10 minutes of having the ball. So credit to the Eagles for getting him off the field quick, and for the Eagles offense for staying on the field. So it's a combo effort right there.
When you have held an offense like the Rams, and let's face it, the Rams are not an elite offense, but they have been an efficient offense through 4 games. Even though they were 2-2, they have been an efficient offense. When you hold an offense like the Rams to under 300 yards in an entire game and under 100 yards total for an entire second half, as a defense, you have more than done your job. You have more than earned your paycheck for that day.
Right.
No question.
Agreed. So we got to talk about Jalen Carter here, Derek, because here's what I want to do. What I've taken to doing. I've removed, when I talk about him, I've removed the rookie tag. In other words, used to say, where does he rank in terms of rookie defensive tackles? Forget the rookie. Where does he rank in terms of defensive tackles? This guy is a top 3, top 5 defensive tackle now. He's already there. 3.5 sacks. So just yesterday, Gunner, 2 sacks, 4 tackles, 2 quarterback hits on top of the 2 sacks. This guy's a menace in there.
Dude, that second sack alone, when he blew through the line of scrimmage, I said, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And with the power and authority and the speed that he used, the combination of those 3 things to just blow through the line, I'm like, are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. You talk about a nightmare to come. And again, Rob, he's still learning.
Yes.
He's nowhere near a finished product. He's still learning. But if he's still learning and he's that advanced now, wait until he gets the whole picture of what he's capable of doing and how he can utilize certain moves to set up his move to get through a line of scrimmage, to bust through the stonewall of tackle, to put more pressure right up the gut for a lot of quarterbacks who like to sit in their pocket and go 1, 2, 3, throw. When you get to 2, that dude's right in your face. And you've got to alter your game plan real quick with him coming. My goodness, what a steal the Eagles got with him at number 9.
I know. It feels like, Derek, this is one we're going to look back at and say, oh my God.
Yeah.
I get it. Teams are so quarterback crazy and driven and all that. You're always going to grab up quarterbacks high, but for him to last where he lasted, a lot of teams are going to be kicking themselves, man. I mean, just absolutely kicking themselves. So he's nasty. He's a really difficult force. So I thought this was interesting. So Bradley Roby got 25 snaps, basically, playing that nickel spot, like you talked about a little bit earlier, which allowed them to keep Bradbury on the outside. I just think, obviously you got to get him in shape and you got to get him fully acclimated to the system and all those kind of things. It's going to take a minute for him to get rolling, but he could be a Patrick Robinson type of move, later in the season.
True.
Veteran guy comes in and helps you. He could be a really big piece of this.
I don't disagree with you. I still need to see a better sample. I look at his history and, he couldn't start in Denver. He was a first-round pick. Now, granted, they had Chris Harris there. There's some really good corners there, but he never cracked there. And then you look at where else he's gone. They've been quick stops, and I want to know why. And you wonder why he was on the bench this late into a season. Some might say he was waiting to pick the right opportunity, the right team, possibly to jack up the numbers. Maybe the numbers weren't being, that were being thrown his way were not appeasing to him. And he wanted to wait until the team got into a desperation mode to jack up the numbers a little bit. Yeah. Or where a lot of teams just didn't want to take a flyer on him because of a lot of unknown reasons we don't know about.
Yes.
Didn't fit their scheme, wondered if he had lost a step, things like this. But the initial sample size of what he did to be able to stay with a guy like Roby. Now, there were a couple of times that Roby got past him, and that Cooper Kupp got past him, and basically Stafford missed him on throws. It could have been big plays for the Rams in the second half, but he did his job. Mm-hmm. He made Stafford think about throwing the ball in that direction. He was right on Cooper Kupp's hips more time than not. And that's what you need. You're not going to win every battle. You just have to make sure you win the most important battles in certain downs of situations, and he won those battles.
I agree. Look, I think that, look, there's a lot of good things going on here. I mean, I think about how they can attack you from a defensive line standpoint, like just to go back to the defensive line for a minute. With Carter, Dave. The other thing is, Dave. It was curious. Davis didn't get a lot of snaps yesterday. I don't know if you picked up on that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
23 snaps.
Yeah,
like that was kind of strange to me. I
didn't get that, especially with Fletcher out. I didn't understand that move. But again, when you look at the way the overall scheme worked, I ain't complaining.
No, I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm surprised his role wasn't elevated more so. I really am.
Same here. I want to see what it looks like against the Jets before I get crazy. But it felt light for me for him. But with Carter, when Fletcher gets back, we haven't really seen BG scratch the surface a ton yet.
No.
Sweat, Hassan now starting to go into Hassan mode. I mean, man, they could come at you in droves on that defensive line in a lot of different ways.
Oh my goodness, yes. I hate to say this, but I think basically Brandon Graham's snap count is going to be what it is for the rest of the season. And he's okay with that. Whatever the snap count is, how little it is, he's okay. He's okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at the defensive snap counts now. Brandon Graham played 18 snaps, 32%. Okay. Jordan Davis, 23 snaps. Josh Sweat, 40 snaps. Jalen Carter, 39 snaps. Now, granted, the Rams only ran 53 plays. Eagles ran 53, 55 plays. Mm-hmm. So, but the fact that Barnett and Graham played less than 20 snaps coming off the edge tells you that they're leaning heavily on these young kids. Now Josh Sweat is not a young guy, but still, he's not an older guy.
Yeah.
But still, he plays 71% of the snaps. Zach Cunningham, 86% of the snaps. Let's see who else. Who's the other linebacker?
Morrow, Cunningham.
Cunningham played 86%. Morrow played how many? Okay, I'm not seeing it here on Dave Zangaro's chart.
He made some plays, but man, he had how frustrating was that one series, Derek, where he should get the pick and he should
have my goodness
fumble up. Come on.
Well, that's why, some guys that play defense and some guys that play offense for a reason,
Yeah.
I mean, Morrow played 56% of the snaps. So
yeah, I know.
I mean, he played 56. 56 snaps. So he played Morrow played the whole game. Basically.
No, here's the thing. You if you said to me we'd be getting the kind of, as much as that series was frustrating, but we would get the kind of contributions out of Morrow and Cunningham we're getting at the beginning of the year, I would take it in a second.
I'd take it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Now, we'll say this. I hate to bring this up, but I'm a little concerned about our corners, Slade and Bradbury. A little concerned.
Yep.
Especially on the one side. I'm a little concerned, and I understand you got to play the best of the best. I get this. I do get it, and you've got some receivers coming up. You played Justin Jefferson, but you got some heavyweights coming up.
Even this week, you get Garrett Wilson. I mean, it's no joke.
I don't, but I don't worry as much because Zach Wilson can't get on the ball.
Yeah, I hear you.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it kind of diffuses Garrett Wilson's effectiveness. Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, they got some pass catchers over there on the Jets.
Yep.
But you got a quarterback who can't get them the ball.
Yeah.
He played them. The funny thing was he comes in the first game when Rodgers goes down, and he plays okay in the first game against a division rival, and he helps them win that game against Buffalo. But since then, he's reverted back to being the Josh Wilson we know and love.
Yeah.
And I expect to see more of that with the pressure the Eagles defensive front is going to put on him. I expect him to have a long day, which means guys like Garrett Wilson and Allen Lazard are going to be walking over to the sideline just about every series, throwing a helmet, frustrated, verbally talking to themselves because they don't have a quarterback that can get them the football.
I agree with you. Yeah. But your point well taken. I mean, as we go forward here, I just think neither one of them are shutdown corners. There's not a lot of shutdown corners there in the league. We're going to see one next week in Sauce Gardner, but there's not a lot of them, period. They're still good, Derek, but they're not great.
They're 30 and 33.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you want?
That's what it is. That's what it is. You're right. That's an area. Howie's done an unbelievable job replenishing spots, defensive line, etc. Hopefully, if Nakobe Dean can play linebacker, safety too with Blankenship and and Sidney Brown. Hopefully, when he gets back, corner's an area. Yeah.
And you know what? They played well yesterday, but I've said it last week. I'll say it this week, and I'm sure I'll say it in the future. I just think the pass coverage is going to be a problem all season.
Yeah.
I just think it is. It's going to make some plays, but I think it's going to give up more plays than not.
It's what it is. This team especially, it goes really for any team, but this team especially has to have a very consistent pass rush. You have got to get the quarterback off his mark and harried. Because if they have time, it's going to be a struggle. I still think, and the defense did great yesterday, held the other team to 14 points. It's awesome. I think there's going to be more high-scoring games this year with this team than we certainly had last year.
Yep. Here's what Howie is doing. He's already laid the groundwork for the future. When you look at how he drafted Keely Ringo, Sidney Brown, could be Job, could be Goodrich, but eventually it could be Ricks. But eventually, the Darius Slays and the James Bradburys are going to be gone.
Yes.
And so he's laying the groundwork now of already restocking the cupboard with guys of the future. And he's hoping those guys are the ones that can just step in at some point, hopefully under a rookie contract, and fill the gap that they need to play the kind of defensive football they want to play. Now, obviously, you got to get a bigger sample size of these guys before you can make that determination. But the evaluation has already started. When you bring up Eli Ricks, obviously out of necessity, but you bring up Eli Ricks, the Keely Ringo, Sidney Brown's going to eventually come back from that hamstring. As much as you're putting a team on a field, you expect to compete to win an NFC championship and get back to the Super Bowl. There's also a huge evaluation process. I think when you look at Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, that's way ahead of the curve. There's no question about that. Those two are going to be the cornerstones of that trench warfare for the Eagles for years to come. Now you've got to slowly build in some other areas. We know that you hope Nakobe Dean is that guy, but I don't know if he can stay healthy, enough to be that guy that they need in the middle of that defense. But Nakobe Dean's another one you got to evaluate over the next couple of years. Is he what you'd hope he'd be? Now we know the Eagles neglect the linebacking position. They're always going to pick up linebackers from the scrap heap.
Yep.
You know, they've done it religiously for how long? You know, and that's
Yeah.
the way they're going to approach the linebacking spot. We can get a 1 year wonder here, 1 year wonder there. We can plug and play. But if the trenches and the back end are taken care of, we can cover up for what we don't have at linebacker.
Yeah, I guess I look at it. You know, we were talking about the offense and how it feels like they're starting to hit their stride here. And I think defensively, I think there's definitely more questions on the defensive side. I think the defensive line is, man, loaded. Now, he did it. He did all that yesterday without Fletcher Cox.
Yep.
You know, without Tui Pelotu, without Sidney Brown. You know, that's something. But there's still questions in the back end that make you a little leery when they start playing the heavy, difficult part of the schedule and just how much they're going to have to contribute. You know, the offense is going to have to put up a lot of points. The defensive line is going to have to get a lot of sacks to sort of counter, you know, talent, age, everything on the back end.
It's an ever evolving process. And how he stays ahead of the curve. I got to give him credit for being able to stay ahead of the curve and knowing when to restock the cupboard with younger players and get a good evaluation on them. He takes a lot of pressure off young players by keeping certain amount of veterans. I mean, look what he did last year with Javon Hargrave and Fletcher Cox, and you bring in a Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis did not have to hit the ground running, being that every down D tackle, because I do think he would have gotten exposed in terms of stamina if he'd had to play 60, 70% of the snaps. He's not even playing that right now, if you think about it, you know, because of the rotation they have there. And so you bring in DBs. They don't have to hit the ground running like a lot of teams do and playing rookies right away, like Washington did, the Jets did, Houston had to do with their young players.
Yeah.
You put veterans in front of them that can help teach them the little nuances. You always talk about how a lot of players will say, I learn better from a player than I do from a coach, you know, in terms of what my job description is supposed to be. And Howie Roseman has done a good job of mixing the old with the new and slowly making the transition as they go forward.
Yeah. I mean, but if you look at it really, I mean, all things considered, right? They're second in the league against the rush.
Yep.
You know, the only better team, or I'm sorry. Yeah. I think they actually might be first. Hold on. Let me pull it up. Sorry. They're second in rushing. In terms of against the rush defensively, they are number one. You know, they're only giving up 61 yards per game. Better than San Fran. Boy, I'll tell you, man, Detroit's really improved run defense. Detroit's third.
Yes, they have.
Whew.
Yes, they have. And that defense is getting the ball back to that explosive offense. Yeah. And did you see yesterday? I forgot who did it, but they did a split screen on Twitter. San Francisco and Detroit ran the exact same flicker play that went for a touchdown.
It was funny because the Lions social media put a tweet out saying exact same play today. But it was a reverse flea flicker.
Yeah.
Is what it ended up being. Yeah. And it ended up, and it was to both tight ends. So for Detroit, it was Laporta.
Yep.
The rookie, who's very good, by the way, who caught it. And then Kittle was last night, both Iowa guys also.
You know, copycat league, but then you know what? You're talking about two of the more imaginative offenses in the entire league. And that's why I say, you know, it just impresses me how efficient this Eagles offense is, and it's not even back to where it was yet. When they're racking up over 400 yards a game consistently for 4 consecutive weeks, they're making the big plays either on the ground or in the air, and it's still not completely flawless yet. You know, that tells you about the depth, the versatility, and the talent that they have on this team.
I agree with you.
I mean, they don't need trickery to win games.
No. Listen, they don't. You're right. But yeah, I think that when you look at where they are defensively, it's a work in progress a little bit. I think the offense is getting closer to where it needs to be, but a lot of good signs. I mean, they were able to really shut them down in the second half. Stafford does nothing. They have a season low in passing yards. They do nothing on the ground either. It was really good to see because it just didn't look that way early in this one. The only thing you wish is if the Eagles could have taken care of business a little bit more in the red zone. It's a totally different game in terms of scoring touchdowns. All right, so we're going to come back. By the way, at 1 o'clock, our full-blown NFL segment, we will revisit the Cowboys-Niners last night. We'll look at the Giants against the Dolphins. We'll look at the Jets, little Nathaniel Hackett revenge. Boy, the Patriots are a disaster.
Oh,
They are a disaster area.
oh.
Justin Jefferson gets hurt. That could be a big one. Anthony Richardson gets hurt. That could be a big one. And Shane Steichen coaching his rear end off in Indy. We'll get into that.
Shane Steichen is the early front runner as coach of the year candidate with what he's doing in Indy, and they still don't have Jonathan Taylor yet. Now, Jonathan Taylor played sporadically yesterday. He's still not up to where he is. All of a sudden, the Colts are 3-2.
A big time coaching effort out of him. I love. Look, I think they lost yesterday, but I love what D'Amico Ryans is doing. But there's a couple guys in their first year that are doing really good jobs, and Steichen is one of them. All right, so we'll come back and we will talk to Phillies voice Tom McCarthy, both TV and radio during this playoff run. We'll talk to T-Mac from Atlanta. Preview Game 2 of the NLDS. Phillies Braves fills up 1-0 thus far. So we'll talk to Tom when we come back. Don't go anywhere. That's Derek. I'm Rob. We are Sports Take. All right, I want to tell you about Pro Action Restoration. Yes, Pro Action Restoration. If you have a home, you have a business, you have a property that you own, you go through that pain, that inconvenience, that unknowing of what you do. If you are affected by water damage, fire, smoke, mold remediation, you name it. The beauty is Pro Action Restoration can handle it. And they're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist. That means nighttime. That means holidays. That means early morning, whatever the case may be, you reach out and they will be there for you. They were for me. I reached out to them on a Saturday. They got out to my parents' house and they cleaned the mess up and they fixed the problem and the price was right. It was an awesome experience. It really was. Pro Action Restoration is a licensed, bonded, and fully insured company. They've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company also. So again, water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation, you name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's Pro Action Restoration.